And I am Ashley.
See, okay, we have to start with that. That is, for our editors out there, that is where we are beginning. And I am Ashley. So, for those of you who don't know, because we get edited out every episode, we have this thing that we play for our podcast manager, John, because we run 3 different shows. And so he doesn't know what recording is for what show or what segment it is, because we have intros, outros, interviews for 3 different shows 3 times a week. And so we do this thing where it's like, this is George, this is Practice Underwater, and this is Ashley part 2 or something like that. And then it's and he always makes us say which host it is. So I say, and this is George. And then they're like, and I'm Ashley. So by the way, everybody, welcome back to part 2. If you want to know what's going on and why I am joking around with a guest on Practice Underwater, who we've said her real name, go listen to part 1 of last week. This is Ashley from the startup page. And she is we record, and it's a lot of fun, and we talk about good stuff. And she wanted to be on the show, and I told her there's no way in heck you are ever going to be able to be anonymous. Like, everyone's going to know who you are if you say I have this startup that is like very different, and it's all about like, it's like Tiffany and company, but it's like, man, nobody would know who that is, right? And so we didn't even bother trying to be anonymous. And so we're just here helping her out. And Ashley, do you have anything you want to add?
I just want to know if this episode is going to be released next year, or is it going to be released next year? I just want to know, how is COVID gone by the time this gets released?
So 18 months from now, I think it should be. I think it should be released.
There's a vaccine already.
No, so it's funny. Richard. So for anybody who doesn't know what we're talking about, we recorded with Ashley at the Dental Success Summit of 2018. And
I think I just graduated from dental school when
we released it after VOD 2019. So it was about 11 months or 12 months post-recording when the episode got released.
Yes.
It was actually almost 12 months exactly. It was like 11 and a half months after we recorded. And then you were giving us a hard time about it at Voice of Dentistry, so that expedited the release date by probably another year. It was one of those episodes that we recorded. We're like, where do we put this? Like, we don't even know what happened. We were recording a swell interview, and then it just became like this episode.
It became
an episode. And so we're like, and I remember like 30 minutes in, I'm like, I think we're past the swell thing. And we're just like, oh yeah, we got an episode here. And then we were like, where do we put this thing? Because we had these seasons, and it doesn't fit into anything. I don't even know what we talked about. And and then we put it on Tyler's show, The Pursuit of Ownership. And because it was like a startup acquisition, a lot of discussion there around startups. So we put it there. And then I remember you were giving us a hard time about it. And Richard, the funniest thing I've ever heard him say, I think, he was like, you aged an episode like a fine wine,
It was definitely.
And it was so quick. He just said that you're like complaining. Like he just sat down and you just like went off about how it's been forever. And he's like, his first response is, he aged the episode like a fine wine. Like so spontaneous, so hilarious. Oh man, that was one of the funniest things I heard. So anyway, yeah, and I think I got one comment from that episode, or it was the one that we did a year later with Michael, and one of the comments I got was, I've never heard you laugh so much in an interview. And so we have a lot of fun recording, and so that's why we're doing this, and hopefully it's a different flavor, right? But I think one feedback I've heard from our audience, or one piece of feedback, is that they enjoy the personality coming through on my end. So you definitely bring that out in me. I'll summarize part 1. So Ashley has a practice, and it's kind of reaching the end of the, it's hard to grow anymore as a solo. She's really reached the max of what she can do as a 1-doctor office. And so she's looking to, COVID gave her a lot of time and space, and she realized, you know what, I really want to work Tuesdays, Thursdays, 7 to 1. That's what I want. Anything I want in life, nothing off the table. That's it. And so she went and hired a Monday only associate who could potentially maybe lead into a more full-time-ish position. And then she told the dental student that they could work full-time at her office when they finish up in a few months. And then she was also looking at hiring a Wednesday, Friday associate. And if that sounds like a lot, that's because I told her that I felt like it was a lot. Yeah. And so we settled on right now only the Monday only associate. Let's navigate COVID, because she brought up something that piqued my interest about 90 minutes for a recall appointment with her hygienists. And yeah, I'm with, so I kind of advised to let's let COVID pass a little bit. Let's get your patient flow back up. Let's pick the problem that we want.
Mhm.
And right now, COVID is going to present enough stuff that I think with the Monday only associate, we should have a kind of a nice blend of trying out an associate, maybe taking some Mondays off,
Mhm.
and also, clinically getting back up to speed in your practice, getting patient flow back to where it is, and then, kind of resuming the associates thing. That's where we left part one. So tell me about your team right now. And they haven't worked yet.
No.
So I
Uh,
have a different perspective because we're now 2 weeks back in.
ah, okay.
And so tell me what's going on with your team.
So my team is starting up with me on Monday, and we're doing just training for the next 2 weeks. And the
Do you
reason
have your PPP loan?
I do,
When did
I
you get it?
I got it last Monday, so I've had it for a week.
Whew, you're behind the eight ball.
About like seeing patients.
No, about paying your staff.
Well, yes, that is true. Because I didn't want. Okay, so here's my thing that I still very much struggle with. Like I really, I'm such an empath that I didn't want them to be losing out on this amazing unemployment benefits that they've been receiving for, I don't know, 8 weeks. And then telling them, okay, well, I know it's Thursday. I'll see you on Monday because I have the money. Like I wanted them to have almost 2 weeks of notice so that they can wrap their minds around that. And I know that's not a smart business decision, but that's just I just I wanted to ease them in as much as possible, especially with all the fears that are there's like there's so much noise that's happening right now, and
Okay.
I love my team, like I really do. They're amazing, and I wanted to make sure that they are still be able to process this before just jumping straight into the office.
Okay. So you're now last Monday. So that's 1 week ago.
Yeah.
1 week ago, got PPP.
Mm.
Okay. So I'm not I'm not trying to be, whatever, but so you have 8 weeks for that money. 1 week represents 12, we'll call it 13, 14, 15%, if you want to overestimate of staff costs. So now we need to find a way to inflate your staff costs by every week, so we have potentially like 12%. We need to inflate your staff costs 12% over the next 7 weeks to hit that number for an 8 week period because we didn't pay them for that week. Does that make sense?
Yes. No, that does.
So hiring another hygienist.
Hmm. Yes. Yeah.
Yes.
So,
So you have a third.
yes, I have a third hygienist.
Good. Lined up.
Oh, yeah.
Cool. What hours?
She's going to work 4 days a week.
Good. And now that you're doing the 90-minute appointment thing,
Hmm.
that works out really well because you don't have as many openings to see patients.
Hmm.
And so having that extra capacity, and it'll be easier to check exams because they're longer appointments. They have more time.
Okay.
So I and then paying that associate on Mondays will also help.
Right.
So you'll make it. You'll definitely get your forgiveness. But without those two things, probably would be harder. So I'm happy that you did them the way that you did because I'm not like, I know that I'm going on a PPP side tangent, but a lot of my coaching calls right now are PPP oriented and
Mm.
like making sure that we time payrolls and we make sure that we're gonna not pay back that money. And so I guess I'm kind of doing that right now, but in general, anyway, let's go back.
Okay.
So team. So they're very worried.
Um, they were definitely concerned. I ended up calling each one of them, and it's crazy because I don't call anybody. Like we're
Mhm.
so text, and I spent almost 3.5 hours on the phone calling
Wow.
10 people and just addressing their fears and concerns. And now they're all ready. They're all ready
Good.
to back, so they're excited. So that starts Monday. We're training Monday through Thursday, and then we're starting to see patients again.
Okay. What are you guys doing without patients?
Going over all of the things that I said we were going to train on that I never had time to, like treatment plan presentations and hygiene calibration and just just buttoning down our systems. Like I've hired my team, half of my team is less than 6 months old. So they kind of, and we were running at full speed and we were just growing. And I never had the one on one time to really sit down and make sure everybody was comfortable. They knew exactly what was expected from them. So we really are going to make sure our systems are good for the next 2 weeks.
Cool. Okay. I so okay. What were we going to talk about in part 2 that you wanted to make sure we did? I forgot.
Um,
Contract stuff, associate
Contracts,
contract stuff.
yes.
What else
Uh,
do we want to talk about?
uh, Scheduling efficiency. I want to. So your schedule has not changed then much when
No,
you no.
no.
You haven't seen any like your hygienist being slower. Are they using cavitrons? Like, walk me through what a day in your practice looks like.
So my hygienists are not using cavitrons, but from their own right. I told them if you want to use your cavitron, you can. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, in my state, my board has not made any mandates on hand scaling only. Our governor and our state dental board have said, return back to your business as it was pre-COVID in terms of the procedure mix you offer and the way you do dentistry. So I'm not breaking rules by using my cavitron, but I don't think they are. But if they like, that's how big of a concern it is to me. If they want to, I wouldn't care or know either way. I mean, sometimes they used it, sometimes they didn't. I mean, do you feel like you knew every time your hygienist used her cavitron before? Like, I felt like that was like the last thing on my mind is my hygienist hand scaling or using her cavitron? Like, I really don't care either way. And
Right.
so I'm kind of still in that boat. And again, this is where I'm pissing off people driving in their cars. But I mean, I'm using a hand speed, I'm using a handpiece,
Right.
and I'm blasting, some crazy RPM of everything going everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I mean, I don't know. I'm following my mandates, which are not restricting the use of a Cavitron. So I'm using Cavitron.
Did you put in extra like purifiers in your ops? What have you done
Man, you're
differently?
trying to get me in trouble here. So,
Oh,
so right. So this is what I did with my team.
okay.
I said, so this is the conversation I had with them, and I did not do it. So if I could go back in time, I would have had a meeting before we opened,
Okay.
and I would have addressed everybody's concerns.
Mm-hmm.
I had my office manager reach out to everybody, tell everybody that we're coming back on a specific date,
Mm-hmm.
and then when they got there, I wasn't even there the first day, and and then I came in the second day, and I heard a couple employees had some concerns, so I just addressed them one on one, and then we
Okay.
moved on. I was, and again, the message I gave everybody was 18 months, nothing is going to change moving forward. I get that there's going to be more testing, less cases, different points on the curve, and all that stuff. But realistically, from a one dentist office perspective, not a whole lot changes in an 18-month period. Like
Right.
this is our new normal,
Right.
and we have to come back to work and act like we're going to act 17 months from now.
Right.
And 17 months from now, so we have sneeze guards on
Mm-hmm.
our check-in, check-out. We have our COVID screening protocol. When they walk in, they take the assessment, and we have like a questionnaire that we ask, and it's just kind of the screening questionnaire. And then anything past that, but we don't do the corhexidine rinse. I mean, can I go on a rant? I keep hearing the
Yes.
can I okay, this is a virus, and it's being recommended to me to have patients rinse with an antimicrobial solution, and it's a respiratory virus, so it's not even in their mouth, and all data has shown that it transfers through respiratory droplets, not salivary droplets. So so that's the thing that I can't get behind, and that's what I told my team is a lot of the stuff is being told, recommended, talked about. There is no evidence or even really scientific logic behind it. Like, what? And so it's hard sometimes to justify, and I told them I don't want to act out of fear. Like, we're not going to do that. Patients that are fearful are probably not going to come in anyway. So we don't need to have all of these gadgets and gizmos to we have our PPE. So I have N95 masks for them. But we are not using those on every patient. It's level 3 in my state is still acceptable mask. And so that's what we were using. And, if they want to wear an N95 under it, we have that available to them. But it's a level 3 on top and disposed to every patient. So, I mean, we're not overdoing it, but we are following all the rules. And so that's really what I'm communicating with them, is nothing's going to change for the next 17 to 18 months. Like, let's be the calmness that people see of, okay, like we have some semblance of normal here. And like, this has to be sustainable.
Right.
That's the big thing for me, is it has to, what we do now, we have to be able to do a year from now.
Otherwise there will be no office.
Yeah. So that's the thing I'm really preaching to everybody, is calmness, stability, sustainability. And like, let's like use our brains for a minute, and like, let's look at the data, and let's study the research, and let's see the dental office's role in this. And let's use that to guide our decisions, not what HR companies who don't know much about this are telling us to do.
Right.
Like, I mean, how many webinars have I, like, oh my gosh.
So many.
And they're all like overreact and do all this stuff. And I'm not calling it overreactions on like it is it is like a deliberate to be safe and cover your butt overreaction. And wow, I'm like going way too far off of an area that I really shouldn't be. But like, right, like, this is a very controversial thing. But
Really?
I guess here's my thing, is I'm not going to do something that I know doesn't work just to make people feel better. Like, I'm sorry, like, and that's just a stance I'm taking of, like, I want us to be data driven, and I want us to look at, like, when we do something, I want it to actually be for a reason, not just to like placebo affect everybody. Like, that just doesn't feel right to me.
Yeah. See, I am the opposite. Well, no, I am data driven, and I don't know if you watched John Coyce's webinar. He went.
I have not watched any.
Okay, so John Coyce.
I know who he is.
Okay, everything is data driven. He actually he had a full on task force of like 6 or 7 people who just did all the research for the last 8 weeks.
Oh, good. On
COVID. So everything, and then they have all of the articles linked to all of their all of the things that they're recommending. So my recommendation is to go on coicecenter.com. If you go to support materials, there's a whole section based off of COVID, especially for George. If you want to see the research, it's all there. So I did everything that they had recommended, including spending 10 grand on air purification systems, which, holy crap, that's
that's a lot.
Yeah, but once the webinar is it's almost 3 hours long. So, but I'm also doing all the things that are not recommended just for peace of mind, because at the end of the day, like, I mean, I spend so much money on insurance, right? Like, just in case, like, you cannot put a price on peace of mind. And I am going into this situation with, if it even has a little bit of efficacy, let's just do it, because I want peace of mind, not just for me, but for my team members. And so we're doing the rinses, we have the purifiers. George, I went on 3M's website. Have you heard of a PAPR?
I so should not have gone on that rant. Oh my goodness.
Yes. No.
Oh, geez.
Do you know what a PAPR is? It's the one. So it looks like you're walking on the moon, but you don't have to wear a mask, and you're hooked up to a filtration. So you just wear your loops, and then you can breathe, and you're completely enclosed, and people can see your face. So I just invested in that. That is a 7-week like time frame to wait. But I hate N95 masks. I'm going to retire if I have to wear that for the next 18 months. I am pretty sure I've been getting carbon dioxide poisoning just off of the short emergency patients that I've been seeing. Are you surviving working under that mask?
I mean, yeah, I mean, you have to.
Oh, see, like, I've been getting headaches, and I already get migraines. So I'm just a high maintenance. I just want to be comfortable, George.
No, and I'm not right. To each their own. for me, I'm gonna follow mandates, and like past that, I'm not gonna do, you know, like I'm really just gonna follow my state mandates, and but like that's my stance, and I hope I don't get a bunch of angry emails about it. To be honest, like it is a like I don't know. Like let everyone have their own way of doing things. I'm not going to tell Ashley not to do it her way. Please don't send me an email telling me not to do it my way. I'm not going to respond, and I'll probably make fun of you.
Yeah.
So don't do it. Just but like right. So yeah, like you got to do what you want to be comfortable, and you have to feel good in your own skin. And like if that's what it takes, that's what it takes. But I think we can all agree that this is a very long-term situation that's going to impact you know, our daily lives moving forward. So however that impacts it is obviously up to the person. But yeah, I'm actually going to check out the Koi Center. That's cool. I'm happy that somebody did that. I was
You,
hoping Christensen would do something like that too.
I even got like the foggers. Did you get those foggers and hypochlorous acid generators? Oh yeah, no, go watch it. It'll
I'll go
change.
watch it.
You're gonna end up buying a whole lot more stuff though. Just so you know.
I will see.
Are you charging or are you imposing the PPE fee to
Fee.
your
um, what an abrasive thing to do.
I
Oh my
know.
gosh. Yeah,
Yeah.
I am not doing that.
It's I can just imagine the reviews that are gonna come in like, oh, my doctor's nickel and diming me now.
Yeah, I am not. I am like really big on not doing that. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, no, I no.
Has this wanted or has this motivated you to go out of network at all, even a little bit with some
Not
inter
even 1 inch.
okay.
COVID has not changed my outlook on life a whole lot. I mean, it's given me more time and it's made me realize, right? I think the time off that I had changed my outlook on life, but the actual pandemic itself has not changed my view of dentistry or my plans haven't changed. They've just, I think my timeline's been expedited just because I've had some time to think and reflect.
Yeah.
But I don't think I've, no.
Okay.
I
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's switch gears. Let's switch gears because our first part one, we were talking about diving into associates. So
Associate
now
contract.
can you walk me through like contracts and like what you specifically like?
Do you have a lawyer?
No, I need
What?
one. I know.
Why?
Well,
How do you not have a lawyer?
I have a trademark lawyer because of
This
that
whole
whole.
time you've not had a dental attorney.
No,
So you've had an associate before. Who made your contract?
there was none.
What? What?
No, it was like a
No.
handshake. Yeah.
So,
No.
oh my gosh.
Oh my
No, I
gosh,
have.
so bad.
So, yeah, this is like we're talking infrastructurally here. Like you needed your team in place. Do you have an accountant?
I do have that.
Okay, you do have that. Good. So like as important as your accountant is your lawyer, where moving forward, right? Like you have an issue with a patient, for example, they get pissed off, they threaten to sue you. Like you need to ask somebody that question. Like you
Yeah.
need a lawyer.
Okay.
You have an HR company, I'm assuming, that helps you with HR. So, like I use Cedar Solutions,
Me too.
and yeah, Cedar's great. So you have like HR issues, you send
Okay.
them their way, right? A lawyer is in that same realm of necessities, and
Do you like your lawyer?
I love Rob Montgomery's firm. So I work with Justin Weaver at Rob's firm, but I've also worked with Anna Henslinski and April Francius. I've worked with a lot of their different lawyers at Rob's firm. I love them all.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you're not paid to say that.
I am not paid to say that. No.
Just wanted everybody to hear that.
No, I pay them to say that.
Okay.
Right.
I know. Attorneys are not.
No, actually, attorneys so I'll just say this as it is. I've been on the backside of this industry, and so I am actually like a very anti-kickback person on the side of being the person who promotes companies. I don't like that model of compensation for either party, and so I don't typically engage in those. But attorneys are the ones that I think like do them the least in the industry. Like I think it's really hard to find an attorney that's going to get a kickback for like being recommended. Like that's like right. They're like by nature very against that. So yeah. Anyway, so Rob, yeah, so he's my lawyer and we have like my framework of a contract. So they wrote the contract and it's a framework. And every time I've hired an associate, I've had three now, it's been some variation of this kind of framework contract. And so you have, your non-compete clause, your start date, your time off notice, like all that stuff is kind of basic. Like
Okay.
that stuff doesn't change. For me, the stuff that changes is I pay a salary. So I put it as an annual salary. But that's more like a full-time associate thing. You probably do more of a daily rate. The
Mhm.
thing I don't like about daily rates is so you're doing it like daily rate or production, right?
Mhm.
Or collections, whatever.
Yeah.
Um, if they have a big day, you pay out. Then the next time they have a slow day, they get their base. Then the
Right.
next time they have a big day, you pay out. And so it averages out to be that you come out the longer period of time that I can look at to assess whether or not I pay my guarantee or my bonus is better for the owner. The shorter the period of time, it's better for the associate. So on a day-to-day basis, if you're doing it that way, uh, it's not as advantageous. I get it. It's like a Monday only position. Like, sure, of course that's going to happen. But
Mhm.
once you have full time,
Yeah.
you really want to move to a more salary type position where you take that base pay that you would pay them on a daily rate and throw that over a year and say, how much is that a year?
Okay.
And then you offer them that number. And then
Okay.
that gets broken up into payrolls.
Okay.
And so the way we do it is on a monthly basis, but you can do it also on a by pay period or whatever. But it is, so they get their pay every 2 weeks, based on their annual salary. And then at
Mhm.
the end of every month, I look back at how much I paid them that month,
Okay.
how much they produced, and I make up the difference if it's more. So, and I pay them what we call bonus, and that's like their production bonus.
Okay.
And so that comes in on the first payroll of that next month.
Gotcha.
So that way, that gives me a whole month to have them working for me and have their high days, their low days, and everything. And then I get the average. So
Gotcha.
that's the fairest thing because then I'm not paying for, right? Like, the way this works in dentistry is like if you do two profitable things in one day, all of a sudden you had a productive day. And if you do no profitable things, then you don't have a productive day. And I don't want to be paying that wave. I want to kind of more normalize it.
Are you paying, if you're paying a salary, a yearly salary, are
Mhm.
you including paid vacation for your associates then?
No.
No. Okay.
So it's like their daily right. So it's like a daily rate. If they take a week off, for example, then they get 1 week of no salary. Does that make sense?
Okay. Yes. Yes. Okay.
So it's proportional to it's like any yeah. I mean, I think and this we're talking about infrastructure, right? Like if you have a solid like who does your payroll?
Gusto. Oh, you mean like, oh, I do my payroll.
There you go. That was what I was looking for. So like a theme here is right. Like Judy's your office manager.
Yeah.
What does she do?
Everything else. She,
Everything else, but not payroll.
not payroll.
Okay.
I like to
Um,
see the money and then
you
cry a little bit when I say submit. It doesn't it hurt? I feel like it hurts, like processing payroll.
so it does. I find that back when I was a bigger producer in my practice,
Hmm.
I felt my expenses more because it was like I just prepped how much to pay for this, you know. But like I think as I've removed myself from the clinical, like right now I produce about 20% of my practice's production, so it doesn't hurt as bad because the majority of my revenue is coming from you know other people. So I think that's I don't notice it as much.
Okay, so that is what I really want to talk to you about in part two. Your
Okay.
mindset,
Okay.
and um, how how much I admire you for knowing exactly what you want out of dentistry and knowing what you are readily and happily able to give up to your associate. Like because in my head, like I really do, in my mind, like I'm ready to go down to 2 days a week, but I also still know myself and know that I built this practice. Like these are
Mm-hmm.
my patients. This is still my baby. Like having to remove myself from the equation and not wanting to jump back in for like those fun cases, like cherry pick the cases. Like like can you
I
walk
think you
me
should cherry pick the cases, but I think it should be so you do that like that cosmetic day.
okay,
So
yeah.
the way I see it really working well for you is if Tuesday and Thursday, 7 to 1, are just cosmetics only. So it's either consults, seats, preps, whatever, but just smiles.
Okay.
And it's just the expectation when an associate takes her job at your practice is
Mm,
that I do smiles, you do everything else.
okay.
If that's like, so here's the thing. Whenever you hire, have you had this with employees? When you hire somebody with the right expectation, like you're going to work this day. Cool. Hired, works well. But when you have somebody and they didn't have that expectation and they try changing it on them, like, okay, now can you add a day? Then they get all pissed off.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so it's, I hired my associates. What I tell them is, you are here, so I don't have to be. I come late, I take long lunches, and I leave early.
Okay.
And that is the expectation, is that you stay during the full office hours so I can leave.
Uh,
I hire them with that expectation.
okay.
And I always use that line. You are here, so I don't have to be. Like
Gotcha.
that is why you're here. And so then when George leaves early every single day, and I always cover every single last thing, like I'm not kidding. Like I'm relentless about it. Like every moment I'm in the office, I am questioning if I still have to be there.
That is
And
amazing.
and then I leave. And it's great. And my associate, right? That was the agreement. So it's never like, and right, if she has this personal situation going on, I'm happy to cover. But I tell her like it is an inconvenience. And like I'm not like I cannot be inconvenienced on a regular basis. It has to be like situations that are like right, like her kid has something going on in school and she wants to go. Cool, I'm all about that. But it's the like it's Tuesday and I feel like getting off a little early. Can you cover like if I'm not, I'm not going to be here anyway? No, but if I'm going to be here anyway, cool. So, but like that is the expectation that I hire with. So your expectation is I do all smiles, no ifs, ands, buts,
Mm-hmm.
because that's what I like about dentistry. And this is my practice and that's what I want to do. Like I'm good with that. But like you have to talk about that on the front end. So
Mm-hmm.
like I guess the tangent I'm going down is everybody's practice ownership looks different,
Right.
right? Mine looks like I'm not there because that's what I want out of it. Yours is I want to be there doing the stuff I really want to do,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't want to do the regular stuff. Like you still want to go Tuesday, Thursday, 7 to 1, and that's a good amount. Like you still need to go on a regular basis, have that relationship with your team, have people see you. Um, but I also feel like your practice right now, like you said a couple things, you're like, my baby, my patients,
Right.
my team. Like there's a lot of my in there. And that's like only child not going to share. And
It's
are
true.
you an only child?
Only child.
Yeah. So that's a lot of what comes through in the way you talk about it.
Hmm.
And so there needs to be a lot more of the like the desire to have the practice be okay without you.
Right.
It's an interesting idea, but the idea that your practice, like let's just say, I don't want to be morbid, but like let's just say you decided I'm going to go travel the world with my family for 9 months.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, your practice probably wouldn't be okay,
Right.
right? Um, but like at some point, that's where you need to get to.
Mm.
And that there's a lot of pride going in that because there's a lot of pride in the fact that it would not be okay without you. There's like, hell yeah, this
Yes.
baby needs me.
Right.
It rocks because of me. Like, there's a lot of that stuff. And
Mm.
like, I walk into my practice and it is weird to see nobody need you. So Paul Edgerton and I have both kind of remarked about this to each other. Like
Mm.
we've kind of both built this practice that doesn't need us. And it's like, it's kind of weird to like be at home for a week and have the week off of work, for example, and nobody text you for anything. It's like,
That's
they're good.
amazing.
you know, and it is amazing, right? You're like, that's amazing. But then you also feel kind of useless sometimes. So no, I'm serious. I'm being dead serious. And like I went in post COVID and I had a conversation with my associate and I told her, you know what? Like this is like, you know, I'm gonna cut back my clinical hours moving forward and that's kind of the direction I'm heading. And she's like, good. like um like I mean that's such what she said. She's like, you know, like you're just like it's funny because my team, they're like, you're a great dentist. Like, I don't know why you don't like it. You know, they want me to work more and they're like, but she's like, you're just not like, you don't have the personality to like be here all the time. Like that's just not you. And like we need somebody who's here more, who's like a more of a dentist, like
Okay.
in their work hours and they're like they want to produce. Like I don't want to produce. And like my team tries to get me to produce and I'm like, I don't want to. Like
Mm,
I'm happy the crown canceled. You know, and like that is so like we need somebody who's not like that, right? But it's different and it doesn't feel great all the time. But like I'm okay with that. And it's like you have to get there. It's a really weird spot to be in. If you want the type of practice that you say you want, you have to be in a different place to to be okay with the things that you might not want, that it's also going to have to be realities.
okay, so with my first associate, I was kind of in a tough situation because I was pregnant and needing
Mhm.
somebody to replace me. So obviously,
Yeah.
mindset was not there at all. Like I was just forced out,
Mhm.
and I totally felt that. A part of that also was just postpartum hormones, but I felt like depressed when I wasn't feeling like I was needed in something that I obviously built.
Mhm.
And now, now I really do. I want to be able to take a step out, and I want to focus on my other loves, which aren't necessarily involved in dentistry. But like how, like so when I left the practice that first time,
Mhm.
everything stopped. Like new patients
Yeah.
stopped, reviews stopped, production stopped. How do you make sure, or how do you maintain like everything going without you? Like, do you have a bonus structure? And I'd love to know about your bonus structure to keep your
Mhm.
team engaged. Yeah.
So I think let's talk. We'll talk bonus structure, sure, but two things. So one, because if I give like if I like so anyway, let's talk the first thing first. So you're entering this period right now of team training for 2 weeks. You know what I would love to accomplish in 2 weeks? I would love it so that at the end of 2 weeks, you are an associate in your own practice. Does that make sense?
A little.
There's this concept of so when I was a dentist more regularly, like when I was a bigger producer, I still work like to one between 1 and 3 days a week. Like I still work a solid amount, but like back when I was there more being a bigger producer, I tried to develop this idea that I am an associate in my own practice, as
Okay.
in I'm not going to do something an associate wouldn't,
Okay.
and so my team has to do those things. And you start building your team and the delegating through like for example your office manager comes to you with a question, you're just
Mhm.
like answer, cool, I'm the owner, there we go. But like reality is you're not going to be in that situation where you could just answer that question, so you need to use this time to think about all of the things that you do right now that they need to do moving forward.
Okay.
So that's like we're entering a 2 week period where you're training your team.
Mhm.
I would make that list before I start, and it would be my objective that a lot of that stuff is off my list at the end of those 2 weeks. Like
Uh,
payroll, for example, that's got to be one of them.
okay.
You can't do payroll anymore.
Okay.
Um, and I get that, like you can still see how much money it is. Like you can go check, but like you have to start delegating a lot of that function. Like
Yeah,
whatever
like
your yeah, what is your new patient like? Why did new patients die down? I don't need to know the answer. It doesn't matter. But like you need to kind of explore what about the new patient process failed? What is our new patient process and how can it no longer involve me? So
hmm,
you need to remove yourself from all of the processes of the practice
okay.
so that they operate without you. So that's what I would if like we're preparing for those 2 weeks, I would look back at what happened with the associate
Hmm.
and I would say what died, reviews, new patients.
Hmm.
I'm throwing payroll in there because you mentioned it, but like day sheets. So do you look at the day sheet every day? No, we got a head shake. Good. So there needs to be a day sheet process.
Yes.
So is there a day sheet process in place? Like, does anyone go
Sometimes.
through the day sheet and correct the correct codes for the correct appointments? Okay,
No.
so something like that could be and should be done. But um, so in my office, we have my office manager every day. She goes through. So we have a day sheet process. And for the first year and a little bit more than a year, I checked the day sheet every day,
Okay.
and it was, you know, codes, payments, where the correct payment collected for each patient is the correct codes attached to the appointment. Are we, all that stuff needs to be checked, and then they take the, pretty much the statements, like the collection statements, to make sure all the numbers check out. And it's kind of to prevent embezzlement, and then we file them all away in a chart. And so I can go audit any specific day I want to, and I can say I want to go look at this day, and I go pull it from the chart and I go look through the day. But I don't need to look at it every day moving forward. That's sort of my practice process. But like stuff like that,
Mm-hmm.
it needs to be. So I would make a list of all the things you do as an owner, and then find a way to get as many of them, if not all of them, off of your list as possible, and use the slow time during COVID as your way of building that. Because your team right now isn't ready for you to leave.
Right. No, not at all.
Not at all. So that's what you can do right now.
No, I love that. I love that.
Now, bonus.
Yes.
So bonus, here's what I'll say about bonuses. They are perceived as the cure to all problems. If my team just cared as much as I did, we would, and so create this bonus that gets them bought in, and then like it's supposed to get them to run the practice, and it works when it works well. So when your team, like, if you haven't taught them how to do anything or how to run the practice without you, then the bonus isn't going to do a whole lot because they don't really know what they're doing. It's just like, it's almost like up to chance whether or not they get bonus or not. And then they can lead to frustration. And so what any bonus system you offer is going to essentially do that. My big thing with bonuses is I like it to be, so we're metrics driven. And so I don't view like production collections. It's not very tangible to me how each team member plays into that.
Okay.
And so we have production collections goals, and this is all pre-COVID, right? COVID, we'll take a break from our bonus, and then we'll come back when things are more normal. But we have productions collections goals, and then if we hit those goals, then people get paid based on their own personal goals. So for each employee, we have their own benchmarks, and if we hit production collections, then people get paid. How much and how they get paid is based on their role in the bigger picture. So if that's my treatment coordinator, it's case acceptance. So the amount of treatment converted is paid out on that. My hygienists get paid on the amount of treatment that gets converted out of their chair, plus their fluoride, perio, and I think it's those three. So that's how they get paid. And then assistants, it's getting paid based on, we have like provider goals on a daily basis. And if they got provider goals, then they get paid. So it's all based on everyone's job in the whole thing is pretty much how they get paid, so that they're focused on their role in the bigger picture.
Do you pay like a percentage per, like, do you have one lump sum that you're willing to share, or like how do you divvy up the pie?
So again, everybody is performance based. So after we hit our production collections, that means we are paying bonus. How much we pay is based on their own thing. So I've had certain employees just totally kill it, and I'm like, damn, good for you. I know my team listens to this. I don't want to say numbers, but a healthy bonus for a team member that did a good job in my practice, like $500 to $800 a month, like that is possible. Okay. And also there are team members that got like half that, and it's based on their job and their role and how it was performed. And right, if like my assistant, for example, so right, we talked about this. I have 3 assistants right now in my practice. My associate started, and she I saw very quickly that she was going to be very productive, and so I gave her one of my assistants. I cut down to 1 column, and she runs 2 assistants, 2 columns. And so I have 1 assistant with 1 column right now, and I'm the lazy dentist I talk about all the time. And my assistant, she gets screwed with the bonus system because I don't meet my goal, And that's how she gets compensated. So like I kind of feel bad for her. We've talked about it. Like we have a plan moving forward on how that's gonna like be fair to her. But like, it's not her fault, but like, you know, she doesn't do as well in the bonus structure as she could because of the doctor she's working with, which in this case is me. But versus like my associate, you add her same, like if a patient's like, I want to do this today, she's like, yes, let's do it today.
Okay.
If that means staying through lunch, fine. And me, it's like patients say like, can we do this today? I'm like, no, go make an appointment. Like it's a no go. Like same day dentistry is not an option with me. Um, like that's not happening. And
Well, okay. I'm trying to wrap my head around all of this because I really love what you're saying, but I need to know, like, I want to know, like, an arbitrary, like, do you?
so this is what you have to do. You have to say, if I hit this number,
Okay.
am I good? So estimate how much I'd pay out. So for me, for my entire team, it ends up being around $5,000. I have a big team. I got like
Month.
for the month. Yeah. It's like 12, 11, 12 employees, something like that.
Okay.
So, like you always map out worst case scenario, right? Like worst case scenario, the most I could ever pay them in a month is probably, $5,000-6,000. So then you say, am I okay with that? And if that's a yes, then cool, I'm ready to roll out the bonus system. But I get that you want the certainty of, if we hit this number, then I'm for sure paying this much and I'm good with that. But like, right, you're leaving it up to them, and naturally, like, you're gonna pay an unknown amount until you pay it. And I mean, I'm okay with that, but not everyone is. That's why they like the different percentages and stuff. But I typically I like my model because we are incentivizing them to do their role in the bigger picture. And when you have, right, if I have 3 team members and I run a small team, cool, we can all share a percentage and we're all equal part. Like, it's like, this is equal system. But when you have 12 people that are all involved in the process, like you can't bonus that way.
No,
it's not going to work.
Can you dive deeper into your hygiene? Like you said, it's a percentage of what actually gets treatment planned on your schedule in addition to what they do? Like what percentage is
1%? I've measured this, and so Rohit and I, Practice by Numbers, have a great relationship.
Okay.
I love him. He pays for sponsorship.
Mm-hmm.
I pay him about twice that amount in Practice by Numbers subscriptions. That is the relationship we have financially.
Okay.
But the best part of our relationship, and the reason why I love him, is because I ask him for something.
Mm-hmm.
It gets done.
Mm-hmm.
So I told him, I want a feature on Practice by Numbers where I can track how much treatment gets converted from each hygienist's chair onto the doctor schedule.
Okay.
And so it was really hard. We had to sit down and plan out how we're going to pull that off based on the way they track things. And, obviously I have no envy for their job. It sounds horrible, dealing with all the dentist ways of putting things into practice management softwares and try to spit out reliable stuff. And so we have that now. And my hygienists, so there's 3 ways to make money off of a hygiene appointment. You have the revenue the appointment generates. You have, treatment that gets added to your schedule because of that appointment, and then you have your exam. So those are 3 sources of revenue: hygiene production, the exam, and treatment converted.
Okay.
So if you look at my practice, my most productive hygienist converted the least amount of treatment, and my hygienist that produced the least converted the most amount of treatment.
Okay.
So if we looked at total hygienist value, my least productive hygienist with the most openings
had the most value
to the practice. And so that's where you're like, wow, George, you're very different than everybody else that I talk to in the industry. It's because I've looked at things differently than everyone else does in the industry, where they're all like, I hate hygiene openings. And my hygienist with the most openings offer the largest value to the practice because they're the ones seeing the most new patients, because we have that availability. And the revenue per appointment on a new patient in hygiene is much higher than an existing patient.
Gotcha.
Versus the production from an existing patient might be regular because they accept fluoride every time, they're a perio patient, all that stuff. Cool. But so when I measured it that way, we now have more reliable information, and my hygienist with more openings. So like that third hygienist that you're hiring who has no established recall pool and is going to get all your new patients, my guess is will be the most valuable financially to your practice in terms of what they offer on a month-to-month basis.
Okay.
So anyway, we track how much treatment gets presented from each hygienist, and there are hygienists that are better than others. Some are really good at talking to patients about treatment, some are not as good. And I'm not talking about my hygienist, I'm talking about hygienists in general.
Mm-hmm.
And so we bonus, that is a component of the bonus. So 1% of all treatment out of their chair is, so like if a hygienist in a month might convert 14, 15 grand out of their chair, then that's 140, 150 bucks as a part of their bonus that they get from that.
Gotcha.
And then we have, so that's one component of it. And then we have so fluoride, your fluoride percentage,
Mm-hmm.
you get bonused based on your fluoride percentage and then your perio percentage. So I believe that is our formula for hygiene. Again, so we're talking about delegating to your staff. My office manager is in charge of the bonus.
Okay.
So I designed it. We talked about it. We decided what we're going to do. And then at this point, I'm not involved anymore.
Gotcha.
So that's why I don't know all the details, but my understanding of it is perio, fluoride, treatment accepted, and hygiene. Like that I know. Maybe there's another component I'm missing. Oh, reappointment rate. That's it. So it's productions, collections, and reappointment rate. Those are the three things we have to hit before we pay out a bonus. So my reappointment rate, if it's not 85%, nobody gets a bonus.
If it's not above 85%,
then nobody in the practice gets a bonus.
Gotcha.
So that's everybody making sure that every patient is getting scheduled in hygiene.
Now, my question is, why do you not track your overhead and tie that in with your bonus?
That's not my staff's business, right? What can they control?
Supplies, running.
I mean, yeah, so you could have your assistant bonus on, right? Like that would be a role-based bonus. So an assistant bonus based off of supply percentage.
Okay.
But I'm not bonusing my office manager based on my facility expenses. You know what I mean? Like
I see. Okay.
So like I know, I mean, Mark Costas talks about it all the time, right? He bonuses his staff, and it's his overhead is a component of that.
Right.
And the thing I don't love about that model is whether I paid for something that I shouldn't have, or I paid more marketing than I should have. I mean, in 2019, my marketing budget was 15% of my revenue.
Holy.
Yeah, I mean, I'm aggressive, and right now it's not, but that was me experimenting and figuring out what works and being bold and being George. And I don't want my team to suffer from that. Mm-hmm. That's my decision.
Okay.
So that's where I stand on that. But yeah, I mean, like, I don't know. I like people to feel like they have control over their bonus. Like the bonus is not out of their hands. I mean, obviously it is at the end of the day, but you want it to feel like as much as, and you want it to be as much in their control as possible. So like if somebody's job is to fill the schedule.
Yes. So that
we have a scheduling coordinator.
Uh-huh.
So they're bonused off of if every provider has daily goals based on, what we've sat down and decided on. And so for hygienists, doctors, everything, they're bonused on all providers' goals. So it's in their incentive to fill hygiene schedules and doctor schedules to goals so that they get bonused. So yeah.
What? Okay, a couple questions. How are you bonusing your office manager?
Percent of collections.
Okay. After you hit like a certain threshold, or just a straight percentage of collections?
Right. No, we said nobody gets a bonus until we hit productions, collections, reappointment rate goals.
Okay.
So if we don't hit that goal, then nobody gets a bonus. And then if we hit that goal, then she just gets a flat percentage of collections.
Gotcha. Okay. But she has a base salary.
Yeah. No, this is bonus. This is not like pay.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then do you mind sharing what your daily goal for your associate is, or is that too?
4,500.
Okay. And you use EF2s. You use EFTAs in your practice.
Mm-hmm. We don't have EF2s though. Mine cannot do exams.
Okay.
And mine cannot cement crowns.
Oh, they can't. Can they do fillings though?
They can place fillings. That's about the only thing they can do that a regular assistant can't. I mean, that's a big thing. Don't get me wrong, but that's like the only functionality they add. I mean, technically they can cement a stainless steel crown on a PUW patient, but I don't even have those. So
gotcha.
Yeah.
And then would you base your pay for an associate differently if you use an EF
No.
too? No.
So I'm a sports guy. I'm assuming you're not a sports person. The fact that you mentioned Lululemon, which I still don't know what that is my sign that you're not a sports person.
Yep.
But Mark Cuban is the owner of the Dallas Mavericks. He's on Shark Tank, and he has this philosophy where, like, right, associate retention is a big deal.
Right.
And if you're going to be in this group practice model, you need to retain associates.
Right.
And so I do that through giving them a luxury experience as being an associate in my practice.
Okay.
You get paid well, you
Okay.
get paid off of production. I treat you right. You get to do all the procedures you want to do, and you have expanded function assistance,
Okay.
and you're not placing your own composite. So if you're going to go somewhere else, you're probably going to make less. You're probably going to do less fun procedures, and you're probably going to place your own fillings. So for me, that's an associate retention thing.
Gotcha.
That is my way of keeping an associate is, I mean, right? Isn't that like the biggest objective in this whole thing is to not have turnover at that position? Find a great dentist, keep them,
So
and having like nickel and diming them and paying the EFTA on like, and like that whole like making them feel any sort of way that's not positive about you or your practice is going to make them want to leave.
okay, that makes sense.
You got to give them the VIP lounge, like, right? Like Cuban did that with the Mavs. That's where I was going with this. Is like he was the first owner of the NBA players to like give them luxury
Mm-hmm.
as like private planes. Like, I mean, I'm sure others did this first, but he was the one that like got talked about. Like he gave them like really VIP experiences being a player on his team that made players want to play on his team.
Gotcha.
And so same type of thing here. Like you give them that like, wow, I want to be an associate at that office because they treat them really well. And like not everybody is going to be an owner. So there are those long-term associates out there who are going to be happy being very productive, making owner-like money as an associate where you're handling everything else. That's the kind of person you want. You don't want the person that like wouldn't make it as an owner. You want somebody who could make it as an owner, but is happier in your environment.
So the Wednesday, Friday person, she doesn't want to be an owner. She says she just wants to have a long-term associate.
Yeah. Again, I told you the whole time, I've liked this Wednesday, Friday girl.
Okay.
She seems good. But you're not ready for her yet. I think we both talked about that, right?
So I have to see what these next few weeks are going to look like.
Yeah.
And then, I'm going to be text messaging you.
That's fine.
And we should have a part 3 as an update, and I can update everyone as to how this whole associate thing is going or not going.
But let's go back to takeaways, right? So we've talked about a lot over the last 2 hours.
So much.
And so I think we have some major takeaways. One is we are committing, right? You have to be all in on the idea that you're going group practice. I'm not going to go like, right? It's I'm going to get way too personal here. But like I got divorced like almost a year ago now, and there was this time where it was like I could go back or not. And it's like I couldn't actually go back. Like we were both very firm on the fact that we're not going to be together again. But there was just this idea in your mind of like you could potentially go back.
Mm-hmm.
And then it wasn't when you cut that off,
Mm-hmm.
a scary moment where you're like, nope, this is real. I'm going for it. There's no going back. And you got to do the same thing here. Like I'm group practice. I'm never going to be a solo again.
Mm-hmm.
I'm diving in. And like that security that you feel of potentially going back to what you know of just like raising fees, doing dentistry, all that stuff. Like, no, that's off the table. You're in. I can tell that I really, I didn't mean to throw you off with that analogy. I think it's a good one. But anyway, part 2 is, I think you're only ready for one associate right now. Let's do the Monday thing. Let's get patient flow back to where it should and can be.
Mm-hmm.
And then, kind of reevaluate, but we're still moving towards that direction. And that really brings up the third part, which is building your team right now. Like that's what you really can focus on. That's not extra cost. That's not associates. That's not complications. That's building your practice in such a way that your team doesn't need you.
I love it. I have a lot of homework. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
So what do you think?
I love it. I need you in my life every week, George.
Every week?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. No.
7 a.m. every Saturday, George.
Oh my goodness. No, there is nobody in my life other than my children every week. My children, my parents every week. And that is my office, obviously, but like that is it. Oh my goodness. No way.
For our next, for part 3, when I update you, I want to know more about not just like my updates, but I want to know more about you and what you're doing, like on your days that you're not at work. I want to know the George story, guys.
See, this is what I struggle with. I'm gonna do this on air,
Yeah.
because this is so. I actually feel like my personal life is super interesting, to the point where it might be even more interesting than what I talk about on air. And I feel like I'm right. That's like, obviously I'm a person, and I have like my thoughts and feelings and everything.
Yeah.
And right, this is a time in my life where I've had a lot of growth in that area,
Mhm.
and I feel like that's as interesting, if not more interesting, than the stuff I talk about on air. But like,
Absolutely.
this is a podcast where we have a subject matter,
No.
and I don't feel like that's appropriate right now. We've talked about like making that a part of it
Yeah.
in the future, like a specific segment for it. But yeah, I mean, honestly, with my friends I talk about that stuff, but like on air I haven't really. I'm not like I'm uncomfortable, it's just I don't know where it fits.
So, guys, if you were listening to this, I propose that George and myself do our own podcast and we talk about all the things in my practice, in his practice, and especially the life component, because that is the most important, I think, of all of this. And I'm going to probe, and I go personal, and I would love just to hear the humanity side. So let us know in your feedback if this is something that you would love to explore with us.
And I mean, I think people have, if you don't know already, I have no filter on air. Like I really talk on air the way I talk in person.
Me too.
And yeah, so like if that segment ever happened, I would probably venture down the road of saying things I shouldn't, which I'm okay with.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I mean, I even said some things in this episode for sure that I definitely, looking back on, don't love the fact that they came out of my mouth on air, but they did, and it happened, and we move on. So yeah, I'm totally open to that. And yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think it'd be fun, but it also has to fit in with what we do. We have to find the right place for it. I think that's the harder part, is the right place. Right time and place for everything. And may not be on the practice underwater segment for sure, but somewhere on this podcast might be tough.
No, it's going to be on the George and Ash show.
Oh gosh. Hey, if we're being serious for a minute,
Yeah.
okay, I'm being 100% serious right now. A show where me and you just banter,
Yeah.
for an hour a week, I would be down for.
Have I not been trying to get your digits for this whole time? Like, George,
She did get my digits. No, I think
I've been
so.
supporting you, George.
I would actually, like, it has to be its own stream, its
Yes.
own thing. Like,
Yes.
it can't be on this show.
No.
It's just an hour a week. We have a standing appointment with each other
Yeah.
every week at this time. We turn on the mic and we just talk.
Yes.
And then it's edit, upload, simple. That I'm so down for.
I'm not even thinking editing. Like, whatever you see.
Well, no, I mean, we would handle it on our end, right? We have our editor and our manager and everything, so that would be easy. But like, yeah, I would be down for that. That sounds like fun to me.
Yes. Happy hour with George and Ash.
Yeah. So I've been looking for an outlet to curse a little bit more, to maybe it's fine. But like, curse a little bit more, and maybe even have a couple drinks in me before I record. Like, that type of environment would be a lot of fun. And a total off shoot way. And so Matt and I have talked about that a lot, like the Drunk Dentist show, for example, or something like that. And like
that is like the show of my dreams, George.
But like, that's a different side of us that people don't get to see. That's like, we're really fun. And like, you guys, like, right, remember you called me the stick up my butt?
Yeah.
And you were like, yeah, you're the stick up your butt, but I genuinely think there's a place for us doing that. Like, we are serious people who like to have fun.
Let's let our hair down.
So I actually think I'm going to take this back and talk to them about it. We'll see. And right, if it shoots, if right, there's an audience for it, maybe not, but at least we'll have fun doing it, which is for me the most important thing.
Let's see. Well, when you release this episode in 18 months, we'll see if there's an audience for it.
I think we're looking at 4 to 6 weeks, to be honest.
Oh, 4 to 6 weeks.
That's a quick turnaround on our airwaves.
Oh my gosh, you guys are crazy. 4 to 6 weeks.
Okay, but you tell me, right? Like, we run 3 shows with 6 hosts.
That's so much.
I mean, you have to be booked out with content.
Yeah.
or else it doesn't work, because our process goes like before an episode gets released,
Mm-hmm.
it touches like 4 or 5 different places,
Okay.
you know? And so we have to be booked out ahead so that that process can run smoothly, right? John, you're listening. I have your back. We are not going to be like, because can you imagine if John is scrambling every week, our manager, and it's like,
Yeah.
who's recording this week so we have an episode for this show? Like, like we gotta be booked out with content.
Okay.
So there is a 4 to 6 week delay. It's not going to be a fine wine, but it is going to be a little bit of a wait.
Oh,
But hey, I'll talk to the guys,
yeah.
and if we're on board for the show,
Yeah.
then
The drunk
maybe
show.
we can start that. We can start that already and just go with it, because that'd be fun.
I think it would be so fun.
Because I actually just want to do that.
Yeah.
Like, we just have a standing appointment once a week. It's just fun.
It's just
Like, it's just fun.
because we're fun.
And,
We're fun.
and we're both West Coast people.
Yeah.
So does like a late night work for you?
Yeah.
That time of day? Yeah. See, that's hard to. That's my time of day too. That's really easy to schedule.
Okay.
And with
At 9 or 8:30.
Exactly, something like that, right? It's just evening, because when I have East Coast people that I work with, like Matt, that's like midnight his time, and he's like asleep at 10. So, it's hard to like, he's asleep at 7 o'clock my time. So it's like, that's hard to do evening recordings, So if you're West Coast, we could do that. That'd be fun.
That would be so
Cool.
fun. And then we can have a cocktail.
And then we can have cocktails. Yeah, exactly. Oh man, I'm so into this idea.
No.
Yeah.
It'd be awesome.
Cool. All right. Well, that was a tangent at the end, and that's a preview for the tangents. The whole show will be one big tangent, and we just press record, talk for an hour, press stop. See you next week.
Yes.
And I'm going to go pitch it to them right now.
Okay.
We'll see what happens.
Sounds
cool.
All right. Thanks, George.
Thanks for listening to another episode of Practice Underwater. We'll see you guys next week.
If you're interested in one-on-one coaching with either Dr. George Hariri or Dr. Matt Garino, our contact emails are in the show notes.
And if you're interested in being on Practice Underwater as a guest, where we could look at your practice anonymously, you can go ahead and contact the email in the show notes and follow those directions to get on the show. Thanks, and we'll see you guys next week on Practice Underwater.